that you are in this space with us. One of the things that we understand from our deep conversation that was led by our amazing friend Terrance Woodbury here is that our Color Lines audience is an audience that wants to know what is happening in the world, wants to make sense of it, wants to engage each other around it. So we thought as we were slow rolling our way into our 2023 launch, what better way for us to start re-engaging in a conversation than to inviting some of our amazing, talented, brilliant friends to talk about this last midterm elections, but not from a place of data points, but from some of the deep questions that we all have about what is happening in our community, in our society, what are we being challenged by, what are we being challenged with, and hopefully to excite and incite your mind to engage with us in a conversation, not just for now, but for the future as well. So I am here with Terrance Woodbury from Hit Strategies. Terrance has done, I just think he's a brilliant researcher, poster, conversation partner, and we are so blessed to have him partnering with Color Lines. We have DaMareo Cooper, who is the co-executive director from the Center for Popular Democracy, an organizer who will always tell you he is from Ohio, Akron, Ohio, Akron, Ohio, not just Ohio, but from LeBron's town. Just saying. So DaMareo is with us. And we have the amazing and brilliant Nafisa El-Said. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
I want to make sure it's right. Now, Nafisa actually is DaMario's boss, but he thinks he tells her what to do. So she's also at the Center for Popular Democracy, and we vibe over being immigrants in this world and figuring that out within this broader context. And so welcome, and come on into the conversation with us. We'd be excited to hear what you have to say, what emerges for you, and hope that you will be inspired to return to more. So, let us begin.
Charlene.
What the heck is wrong with you?
I mean, that's why we're here with Terrance.
We saw it. We actually saw that gender. So we talked a lot about the gender gap, right? About the difference in black men and black women. But the gender gap down here was only a 7-point difference between how black men were voting and how black women were voting. But the generation gap amongst over 50 and under 50, 26-point gap. This is from a week before Election Day. 14% of young black voters under the age of 50 said they were going to vote for Republicans. 14%. That number is actually 17 or 18%.
Wow.
Almost 20% of black voters under the age of 50
You're
voted for
kidding.
Republicans a week ago.
No shit.
Do we know why exactly?
Almost
But
20%.
the numbers used to be like maybe
big number.
6%, maybe 4%.
That's right.
You're talking about it's tripling.
That's why.
I mean, look at older black voters. You know, like I always say black
5%
seniors
of
are my favorite voters, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you know they're
They
going to
say,
vote and you
right.
know who they're going to vote for.
They
Yeah.
ride.
Younger black voters are experiencing a different level of frustration and cynicism.
Exactly.
They
It's
are angry.
different.
Yeah.
And it's punitive. They're going to
Yeah.
learn a lesson.
They
Yeah.
don't
Stop
wanna.
taking
They
some-
don't
Yeah.
wanna follow the steps of previous generation.
That's right.
We're here to change everything.
That's exactly
They want to
right.
hit a
It's
reset
disruptive.
button.
That's right.
They're
Yeah.
very tired from the
Disruptive.
beginning.
That's what it is.
They were
right.
born tired.
That's right.
Wow, that's deep. Born tired. That is deep. You know, because I think about it, and my grandson, who's now 14, but when he was maybe 11 years old, he came, I always remember this because it haunts me. He came into my room like sobbing, totally
Wow.
like heart sobbing. And I'm like, what? You know, I thought he had a bad dream. What's going on? And the one thing that he said to me was, I just don't want to die. At 1 o'clock in the morning, he came
14 years
into,
old.
that was when he was 11.
He was 11.
He's 14 now.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
so the idea at that point that at his age, he's not even thinking about just like life is just always gonna be
right.
here.
That
You
level
know?
of awareness.
That level of
Yeah.
awareness is crazy.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember I told you when we was leaving the store, Sadiq at the time was probably, I mean, he's 11 now. So then he probably was 3 or 4. I mean, he's barely talking. We walk into a Dave's supermarket and they have a security guy, police officer off duty or whatever. And We walk in, and the officer waves, and he just kind of looks at him and keeps walking. I look at the officer like, you know, keep walking. On the way out, the officer says bye to try to like, you know, hey, bye, little dude. And he turns around and says, bye. He says, try not to shoot anybody.
Wow.
That's exactly what he was like 3 or 4 years old. But he's in the environment, right? Like he knows police
Exposure,
shoot people.
yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, careful, you don't shoot nobody, you know? So it's a different kind of generation of people coming up, and I think they are interested in disruption.
Yes.
They're interested in like how to, like they're tired, they're like the civil rights young people who are like, we're not waiting for change. We're not gonna wait. It's time for it to change now.
Disrupt the system rather than wait for the system to work for them. I mean, I remember being in focus groups with DaMareo years ago and hearing a young black man say, my hood didn't get any better under Obama, it didn't get any worse under Trump. So what do any of these presidents got to do with me? You know? And that's not just a frustration, it's a withdrawal.
Yeah.
And they're withdrawing not because they don't care. This is the misperception, is that they're apathetic or they don't care. They care so much,
That's right.
and they're not sure that votes are the way to make a difference.
Exactly.
We're the ones that screwed it up, right? Because it's like,
I ain't claiming that.
no, I'm claiming it. I'm
I was saying
claiming
it's a
it.
group right before me. Y'all.
No, I'm claiming it for you too. I'm
Terrance
claiming,
had to break free.
I'm claiming it for you too.
Okay, all right,
Because think about it, right? It's this piece around, can voting make a difference, right? Voting in sporadic, uncohesive, you know, this group over here, that group over there, no, that doesn't make a difference.
I believe it doesn't
But
make
this
sense.
is the thing.
I do believe
this
that.
is one of the brilliance and also one of the problems of the Obama era. Because the brilliance of Obama was understanding how do you technologically understand people, right? And then, you know, all the technology that got created, they could tell, it's like a drone. They could tell you down to the household who in there is voting. And so here we are, we're telling people, we just need numbers. We just need to march on this.
Voters.
So thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, millions of people march in the streets. And then they look at you and go, oh, all right. But they don't vote.
But they don't vote.
But they don't vote.
That's right. I mean, that Obama.
They don't see any change is going to happen from
That's
it.
exactly right. I mean, and you're right. The Obama generation, that's where this young splintering is happening. It's not with Gen Z. It's with millennials, right? It's that 30 to 39-year-old first time voted for Obama, idealistic and thought the world was going to be changed, right? And when it didn't happen, they either saw it as a flaw of him, of the man they thought was perfect, the one they believed in, or a flaw of the system that wouldn't allow him to be productive.
Right.
You know?
I know, he was not productive. He didn't do
But
anything.
it was.
That's right. That's right.
But no,
I
I mean, he
but,
did.
But that's a narrative.
But it's the narrative we keep saying, and he did a lot.
He
That's
did
right.
do a lot.
That's
He
right.
did a lot.
but he's a part of a structure. Like he entered as part of a structure. I think we got him. You know, black folks have historically had sort of a messiah complex, and so we put that title on him, like you're the messiah, without having a real clear understanding that like once this person is in office, right, he has to deal
He'll
with
have a
these
structure.
historical racist structures.
Exactly.
And so like he's trying to navigate those things, and similar to the way that Republicans do everything, right? He runs into these challenges, has these barriers, and then they blame him. What I mean by that though is what Republicans do for, like, say the schools, like they'll defund the school system, they'll suck money out, they'll create private charter schools, all this stuff, and suck the money and resources out, and then point to it after his,
And say, look, it's failing.
and look at his fail,
Yep,
right?
that's
Like
right.
that is it's a strategy, and we need to be clear about
That's right.
the strategy.
Yeah.
That's right. But you got to remember what Obama injected into the body politic, the hope that he injected, right?
Yes.
It was, he introduced himself to the world as we're not red states and blue states.
Yeah.
We're not black
Yeah.
America and white America.
Yeah.
Made
Yeah.
us truly believe that we could become post-racial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? And not only did it not get better, look at where we are.
Right.
We're the deepest divided
Yeah.
we've ever
Yeah.
been.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, as far
Yeah.
red and as far blue,
Yeah.
as far black and as far white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the vision that he
In our
set
generation,
forward
sorry.
in our
Yeah, I was about to be
not
like, I'm
ever,
looking at the
not
wall
ever,
and I'm
not
going,
ever.
wait, no.
No, that's right. That's right. But it was a vision that we believed in, and the exact opposite happened, right? And that wasn't because of Obama. The correlation doesn't mean causation. He didn't cause the pendulum to swing back.
Yeah.
But it happened.
It's a clapback.
That's right. It was the clapback.
Yeah. Which we've seen every
And now
time.
we got young folks clapping back in their
Coming
own
back
way,
their own way, which is very interesting because like the reply to the clapback hasn't been. So the historical clapbacks have been like Reconstruction movement, clapback, Jim Crow.
That's right.
Civil rights movement, clapback, Ronald Reagan, Southern strategy, right? Both of those times, like the technology, the tools that the young people or people who were on our side had were different than they are now. So like, whereas you have Obama, then you have the Tea Party. Well, actually you have Obama, you have people questioning whether he's a citizen, which is based in the 14th Amendment, which is interesting around everything that's going on now. That develops a Tea Party.
That's right.
Tea Party starts driving a political agenda that Donald Trump catches on to, right? Pushes Donald Trump to leadership. Then Donald Trump allows all this other stuff to get unearthed in the society, right? But here's what's interesting to me, is that the young people, one, they have a bunch of different tools, right? They have a different ideology. And then there's more white folks who are refusing to either be silent or complicit.
Right.
And they're like voting differently, right? Like I mean, and the thing about
young
young
white folks.
white folks.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Very clear.
thank you. Young white folks, which is
White folks
the
are
most.
still acting like white folks.
Oh, white folks, yeah.
Let's be
Johnson's
clear.
That's why the
White
big
folks.
clapback.
That's right. Yeah,
You
but
know?
that's what makes me so hopeful is that it is young,
Yeah.
young white folks, right? And the reason why I'm saying this stuff is back to the thing that Nafisa was saying, and just thinking about this current election, like in Ohio, and I gotta plug this. I just gotta plug it. In Ohio, in the race in Akron, 13th district, congressional district, but also just Akron, Ohio. Jalen Walker gets killed, right? Uprising happens. Instead of it just being an uprising then dwindling, the Freedom Bloc folks, right? They capture the energy and say, let's create a ballot initiative, right?
That's right.
Let's do a ballot. Let's put something on the ballot that you directly can decide on the fate of how police gets done in the city of Akron.
That's right.
Right? Citizens initiated it. The organization, grassroots organization, put it on the ballot. They get it on the ballot during the week of action. We were going to do the week of action. And then they started doing the recruitment. So if you look at this, if you look at Akron last Tuesday, you'll see that the ballot initiative passes with like almost 70% of the vote. 29,000 people voted for this initiative.
Wow.
What's really interesting about that though is that in the last mayoral election, only 20,000 people voted in that election. So total, right?
29,000 voted yes to this ballot.
There's an extra 9,000. At least let's just say 6,000 at the low end.
Right.
There's an extra 6,000 people who show up. That boosts the turnout
Yep.
for the 13th congressional district. Amelia Sykes wins in the landslide, right? They win the thing. But then when you look at other stuff, Tim Ryan loses.
That's right.
Right? Like,
Right.
you see, I mean, and guess what Tim Ryan was doing in Ohio the whole time? Tim Ryan was trying to sound like a Republican, right? He was trying to sound like a moderate Republican, not even like a Democrat. Like he was like China, anti-student loan, yeah, pro-gun. Like, you know,
What does that tell you? It's we always think it's the charismatic person, and we don't go back to the issues.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't engage people around the things that matter in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, and so we just think we got to have, a good
Obama.
charismatic Obama again, right? Charismatic person, great TV ads. Let me show them with my family, or my gun.
That's right.
And we really are not thinking about what's the issues underneath.
Exactly.
What are the issues underneath?
And he did nothing to motivate.
I mean, when you look at the data in Ohio, I mean, he grossly underperformed in the urban centers.
Yeah.
He underperformed in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, in Akron, in Columbus.
Yeah.
And my friends there, the Mayor Justin Bibbs in Cleveland, and Shannon Hardin, the president of City Council in Columbus, they told me that Tim Ryan never came there.
Yeah.
Never came to Cleveland.
He didn't.
Not one time.
In fact,
think
about Justin Bibb. Justin Bibb wins his election with the same kind of strategy.
That's right.
Issue. They had a police civilian oversight committee on the ballot. It increased turnout. Black people went out to vote for this issue that was deeply connected to their lives.
Right.
He was the only candidate that came out early in support of the ballot initiative, of the police civilian oversight committee. Now he's the mayor.
That's right. That's right. I mean, look, let's talk about this issue of policing, man, because this public safety issue, I mean, it is an issue that keeps on kicking Democrats' ass since Willie Horton.
Right.
There's nothing new about it. We
Right.
keep on trying the same strategy, which is, a police bill with more police and more police funding and more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this idea, this idea that like Democrats are weak on crime and we are always on the defense on crime.
That's right.
When in fact, what DaMareo just explained was that a progressive approach to crime,
Yes. To
putting
safety.
putting public safety on the ballot,
Yep.
can actually mobilize a voter. And so when we hear folks say that like, a progressive approach on crime will diminish, on public safety, will diminish Democratic votes. Well, it depends on what voter you're talking
That's
about.
right.
Yep.
Because the summer of unrest, that 2020 protest voter
Yeah.
is mobilized
Yeah.
by
Yes.
criminal justice,
Yes.
not demobilized.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you look at what Joe Biden has done, Merrick Garland's Justice Department, that has banned chokeholds and banned no-knock warrants and ended the federal government's relationship with private prison,
Yep.
prosecuted Breonna Taylor's murderer,
Yep.
prosecuted Ahmaud Arbery,
Yep.
Yeah.
with federal hate crime legislation.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
our indictments. Those are things
big.
This is big stuff.
This
Yeah.
is big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Legalized marijuana, but that's not enough. Expunged it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
he's getting it done,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're afraid to talk about those.
Yes.
Because, exactly.
Yes.
Because they think it's
Because
good.
which
I'm
voter
gonna
are you
do it,
afraid
but
to
in
alienate?
silence.
That's
That's
absolutely
I
right.
can't
Right.
talk about
That's
it a lot
absolutely
because I'm
right.
already in trouble
That's right.
because I did
That's,
it.
that's
That's right.
absolutely
But
right.
that's what's just so crazy, because if you think about everything that's been on the table over the last 2 years, right? We have, and still have, I'm going to claim it, an opportunity to fundamentally restructure society in the interest of its people.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we're running away from it.
We're running
Yeah.
away from
You
it.
know,
That's
and
right.
even within the Democratic Party, they're fighting against it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And the other piece around it too that I think that we don't talk about is that there is a real gendered way in which some of this stuff plays out.
That's right.
Right? So I think about Build Back Better and the delinking of infrastructure, strong, traditional land,
right.
roads,
That's
Yeah.
right.
you
Brick
know,
and mortar.
brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar, yeah.
You know, caregiving.
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
know, the ability for you to be able to actually have good unemployment insurance,
That's
good
right.
health care. You know,
right.
all of
Well-paid
Maternity
teachers.
leave.
Well-paid
well-paid
Right.
teachers,
Childcare, maternity leave.
maternity leave. You know,
Decouple
family
those
leave
things.
time.
That's right.
Completely decouple it,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, and we get surprised about Roe.
Right.
You know, we
Yeah.
should have known Roe was coming when they decoupled that.
Yeah. That's right.
Because what it's saying is the things that have been traditionally feminized, the things that have been traditionally gendered, we're gonna put that aside.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we're gonna make sure that we put forward what's strong, what's needed, and then we don't say anything.
That's right.
Because we don't talk the issues.
No.
We actually just get upset over individuals.
Yeah.
And we've gotta really engage with the issues so people can see what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is neoliberalism was on its last gasp, and we helped boost
Yeah,
it
we-
back
that's
up
right.
again.
Yeah, we
That's
could have
right.
stumped
That's
it
right.
out.
I mean, when you talk about like strength and strongman and masculinity, you know, like there are these values that Democrats seem to be abandoning. You know, masculinity, strength, religion, God.
Yeah.
You know, I have Democratic candidates that like are afraid to say the word God. You know, they won't go there because they don't want to alienate a liberal base. Well, when you look at your most loyal vote, this is why I always say, well, which vote are you talking about?
Right. Right.
Because the most Christian Americans are Democrats' most loyal
Absolutely.
voters.
Yeah.
Black people.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
They ain't never leaving God. Even
Nope.
the ones that left the church.
Even the
Yeah.
ones that,
Ain't leaving
and
God.
even the young ones.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Even the young
They
ones,
left
the
church.
ones that
They
still
left
probably
church.
got grandma
They
that used to
leave-
take
no,
them.
They'll even tell you. They'll be like,
They'll
I'm not
That's
religious.
the problem.
That's
Why
it.
do
That's
we
right.
have
Get
That's
the
right.
church
That's
people.
exactly it. But I'm spiritual. That's
Look,
right.
they won't just tell you, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm spiritual.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
I'm
And
real
you a
spiritual,
pastor.
and I'm a pastor.
You was trained. I was like, I am not religious. I'm just
We
Don't
gotta
be telling
able to-
people my business.
fair enough.
That's
but I
right.
Yeah.
But we got to be able to reclaim some of those values.
Yeah.
You know, like God
Yeah.
is a way to talk about some of the most progressive issues.
Absolutely.
It was a young black man in Cleveland that said, God gave me freedom of choice. Why would we give women anything less?
Oh
That's
my
right.
God,
That is a
that's
religious
deep.
framing
Yeah.
of
That's
abortion
deep.
Yeah.
that goes
Yeah.
beyond what he feels about abortion.
That's real.
right.
And that's
You
a
know,
good frame.
It's a good frame.
Like, use-
You know,
people should
Democrats
use it.
can reclaim some of
Yeah.
that. Even nationalism, self-determination.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, like When we talked about the child tax credit, it was about lifting people out of poverty.
Oh my God.
That's caretaker language.
How
Black
about
folks don't want to be lifted out of poverty.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
give me
not
the
only
tools that I need to
it
take care of my
was
family.
Black
Exactly.
and brown women that won that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Black and brown welfare women that won that initially. And not only did they win it, they won it by going to Republicans in addition to Democrats. That's the other thing that we do is like we leave people off the table.
Yeah.
Like we need to make sure if you're elected, then I need to be in your face.
Yeah.
That's right.
Period.
Because you're supposed to represent me. When did we get to the place where we said you only have to represent the people that claim they're Republican?
That's right.
And that's a claim.
That's a
That's right.
claim.
That's
Yeah.
a claim.
I mean, this is a flaw in like when we talk about political power, we have to reorient, right? This is the civic education part that I'm so glad like folks like Adrian is doing at Black Pact, you know, because there's a training that now has to happen where we reorient from political power means voting, right? That's the electoral power, and yes, that's the first part. And we don't got none of this other power unless we have that one. It's foundational. But after electoral power, we got negotiating power,
Right.
Yeah.
where you can move them because you voted for them. You know, look
Yes.
at the LGBTQ community and Barack Obama. They didn't vote for him because he supported marriage equality. They negotiated with him and moved him. And then you got accountability power, where
right.
once you vote for him and once you negotiate with
Yeah.
them, you show up and you protest when they don't
Yes.
do what
When
you
they don't
said.
do what you said.
Yes.
10 people and then 1,000 people, and we'll be back tomorrow with 1,000,000 people.
That's
and we're gonna
right.
keep making noise.
That's right.
But the last one that we found young people really like is punitive power. Once you vote for them and negotiate with them and hold them accountable, you can fire their asses when
Yes.
they don't do what you want.
Yep.
And that is a cycle of power that goes beyond election day and is less
Yes.
transactional.
Yeah, but you got to convince them to go ahead and vote first.
That's right. It starts there.
And the thing about it is that it's when I talk about the cohesion, like part of I'm old enough to understand way back when in the olden days, that when you organize people, there was a sense that those people would move together, and that's where the electoral power came. We don't have that sense now because you can move 1,000,000 people, and maybe 10% of them will be considered voters, depending on where they come from, and the ability to be able to target that effectively.
That's right.
And so, you have to actually have cohesion and vote with cohesion so that they could see you as a power block. Because if they don't see you as a block, then
is-
you're just
yeah, that's
random
right.
people that are mad.
Yeah, but I also think that takes what you were saying earlier around like the type of education and experiences. So it's not just doing a training, right? Like it's bringing people to have experiences collectively,
Right.
right? Like that's when we talk about organizing. Most of the time, it's like you're speaking different languages. Sometimes you say organizing, but if I'm talking to somebody who is an electoral person, they think that means running canvases and field
right.
program. If I'm talking to someone who runs comms shops, right, and I say like we need to do organize, they think that means like getting press hits and
That's right.
and organizing the media and
Getting
stuff.
the right headline.
Exactly, getting the right headline. Like that's what's going to make the change. And these are theories of change, right? And then like organizers say we're talking about organizing, and I mean like organizers, like grassroots, direct power building organizers. And what they mean is that you're taking people on a journey
Right.
for them to have a self-discovery of their own power and then their power in the collective.
That's right.
Yes.
Right, like that is organized, but we use this word like it was a point where a lot of the mass mobilizations, which I'm clear when I say mass mobilizations during the Black Lives Matter movement, and I mean that is something different than organizing. I mean it is a mobilizing movement moment. It's the moment of the whirlwind, whatever you want to call it, where you could just send out a text or a tweet and get 1,000 people to come to a park, right? Like that's a particular moment, but you have people who were doing that, then coming back and be like, oh, I'm an organizer. Right? I'm an organizer because I sent this tweet and I sent this text
And I got a bunch
and
of
all these
people
100 people came and so now I'm an organizer. But that's not actually the work. The work of an organizer is meeting individuals, getting them to understand like how their story is contextualized in the larger political landscape. And then realizing that there's others who have that same problem and moving
That's right.
into a place of power with them.
That is.
You know, like, and
Spot on.
I don't
Yes.
think
No.
We
I
don't
think
have that.
we even have that language.
No.
But you said two things that really struck me, right? One is the journey, to journey with people,
Yeah.
right? And that self-discovery, because the self-discovery is a two-way self-discovery,
That's right.
right?
Exactly.
And what
Absolutely.
tends to happen is that we want to give people information.
Yes.
We want to tell them we know what's best
That's
for them.
right.
Yes.
And we don't do the process
That's right.
of understanding that we're learning in the process too.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're getting clarity and getting sharper and getting
Yeah.
deeper
Yeah.
and getting broader.
We tell people this is what you need.
Yeah.
How do I
Because
need?
you just
Yeah.
helped me identify something that I've been trying to put my finger on around like this digital organizing thing, which is like the digital organizer is mostly trying to tell people about a campaign or push it out into social media. And the problem with that is that the thing that happens to you as an organizer when you get to the place where you're like, oh, this person got it, they're on the same side, right? And then they start agitating you around the ideas that they have. Right, like, and then as an organizer, something happens in you. Like you go through your own discovery.
That's right.
And like every couple of years, honestly, throughout my whole career, I've been doing this for 16 years now. But every year or two or so, I run into a situation that like lets me know I don't know shit.
That's right.
Right, like it's like something happens, and I'm like, oh,
That's right.
I gotta rethink this whole
That's
thing.
exactly right.
And then it's always a leader. Actually, it's always another person that does the thing or asks the question or challenges me in a certain way that puts me in that
That's right.
place. And if you can't be in that place, it's hard to build the type of deep relationship that will be necessary for us to shift this society. Right? And like that's the thing that I think I'm wrestling with. But then I might just be old and analog.
No,
and like
you're
you
not.
can't do that digitally.
No.
You know?
You just don't ruin it.
That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
a part of the value of doing it digitally, because the other thing that you said is that we find other people that have similar struggle and similar condition that are also trying to change that, right? And the shared fate is a part of what makes the organizing effective.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And that shared fate is so much easier to find online because they're already
in
like
the
coalescing into those communities.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
all of the people that care about climate, they got the same echo chamber.
Exactly.
And all the people that care about, equality,
Yeah.
marriage equality, they got the same echo chamber.
Yeah.
And so penetrating and building that shared fate is easier because they're already building those digital
Yeah.
communities.
Yes.
Yeah. But the thing
We
is like
tend to be behind the times.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, right?
Right.
Like maybe I'm analog.
You-
But
well,
the question is,
it's not
but
that
then
you're
how do you
analog.
take that and move
because
it?
you got to trust people. I think part of the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we actually trust people? Because if you're just giving people information, then you're trying to get them to think the way you think, and you're pushing them around that and not leaving open space for people to come back
That's
and
right.
ask you questions.
Yeah.
The question you have to ask yourself is, do I really trust people?
No,
Or do you trust your
exactly.
analysis?
Exactly.
I mean,
Or do you trust your analysis?
or
Can
chances
it
are you
stand up?
trust your analysis more than you trust
people.
Yes.
That's
And they
right?
will feel that.
And they will. And
They
the thing
will
is,
feel that.
we're doing to people what everybody has done to them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is to say, you don't know anything.
You don't know.
Wait for me to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm the
Yes.
only one that
Yeah.
knows.
Which is-
right. I mean, that's why. I mean, that's why this conversation. That's why color lines. That's why we're trying to say, how do we actually put our hand on the pulse of what people are thinking about, grappling with, trying to figure out, and then how do we open up space that is a space that says everybody can come in
That's right.
and have this conversation.
Yeah.
Because if it's a space where you can't say things, then you ain't gonna learn.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're learning, we're journeying together.
That's right.
We're journeying together. I'm gonna learn, you're gonna
That's
learn.
right.
I think about all that was just even said at this table. This now got my head spinning, right? But if we hadn't sat down, then what?
That's
And
right.
we become so atomized, so isolated.
That's right.
Everybody just driving their own thing,
Yeah.
forward. And we're not gonna change society like that.
That's right.
We
Yeah.
have to give room.
That's right.
Because not everybody is going to be where you are,
Yeah.
and we're not even in the same place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like Terrance know everything that's going on in the world. He tracking everything. I'm just sitting here going, okay, Terrance said this.
Right.
Okay.
Terrance, my
He
phone number
said,
say most people
but
still like
let
Dave
me
Chappelle.
write this down. That's it. You know, that's it. But we feel that we just know, and we don't give room to grow.
That's right.
I keep coming back to this journey.
Yeah,
we got a journey together.
It's what it is.
Right.
I mean,
It is.
one of the things about the journey that I want to bring up, and this might be shifting a little bit, or returning, but like the journey, like when we talk about the work of building power and organizing, all the stuff we're talking about, we're doing it based on, when we think about the electoral power section, we say, okay, this is how many people are going to vote, and then we're trying to win a percentage or fight for a percentage of people in there. I think part of the problem with our movement, right, is that we have not focused on the 50% of people who ain't voting. And like, I don't think we need all of them. Give me 5 to 10%.
That's right.
What would it look like right now? We wouldn't be talking about a runoff in Georgia if we had 5 to 10%.
That's right.
Right? Like, and I'm talking about voters who don't vote, like citizens who don't
That's
vote.
right. Non-voter, not registered.
Not
people.
registered, non-voting. Like, this don't got nothing to do with me, but they're citizens.
That's right.
That's right.
You know, and like no one has spent the time. If we know it takes for a low propensity voter or high potential voter, we know we got to talk to them 7 to 11 times or something like that. Then we need programs that's like, okay, we probably got to talk to this person 25 times.
25 times.
Yeah.
25 touches.
Yeah,
Right.
we got to touch them 25 times in different ways, meaning a cultural way, meaning whether that's music, musician, Comic-Con, because why are we going to Comic-Con?
That's right.
But, you know, whether that's talking to them in a commercial and better yet than commercials, how about we do like digital ads on Hulu and shit?
Or a
That's right.
podcast.
Or on
Commercial,
Yeah.
like, who is, or podcast, right?
Podcast, yeah.
Because who's watching commercials?
That's right.
Oh,
To
no.
be clear, we
Yeah.
spend all this money on commercials and
No.
people don't really,
No.
like, I need that money. You know,
That's right. No, seriously.
For-
Can
No,
I
no,
get
no.
it off of TV for 1 second?
just
so I can
one.
put it in the palm of their hand?
Yeah. Yeah.
One
Well,
good
they
time.
ain't gonna-
You
And
know?
this generation doesn't watch commercial, doesn't watch
Right.
TV. They
We're
don't
not
watch
watching
TV.
commercials.
No.
But these
No.
25 touches could come from a lot of. It should be a neighbor talking to them about
right.
the
That's
thing.
right.
We should be putting billboards in their neighborhood.
right.
That's right.
Right. Like there is a way that we could put together a campaign, a plan to move 5 to 10%. Then let everybody else do what they
That's
doing.
right. Don't put the rest of
Yep.
them on TV.
You know?
You
Yes.
know what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about? You're talking about the same thing you used to say when we were in community, when you talked about being a Marine. You're talking about never leaving a single person behind.
Yeah, you gotta go
That's
back and get
it.
them.
Go back and get
You gotta
them.
go back and get them.
Yeah,
That's
and we
right.
don't go get them. We not.
That's right.
They don't ask. We gone. We
No.
got. And
Anything about it.
Yeah,
that's a stance. That's a stance that we've given up, which is that we've got to make a determination that we don't leave anybody
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
You know, we throw people away too easily.
No, because imagine like I don't vote, okay? You want to convince me. And I was like, I'm not voting. I was like, I know you're not voting. I just want to talk to you.
That's
right.
Don't vote.
Yeah, that's
Don't go
not what I'm
vote.
asking you to do.
Who am I to tell you go and vote or try to
exactly
convince
right.
you? You
If
should know
voting
what
has
you're
never
doing.
worked for you,
But I
then I'm
want to
not here
talk
to
to you.
convince you to vote.
Exactly.
What exactly?
What do
What
you
do you
need?
think?
What do
Yeah.
you
What do
need?
you need? What do you think about this? Why do you dislike it so much? I just want to have a
right.
conversation. Do not vote. I'm not asking you. I don't care if you vote or not. I should come with this attitude, meaning like, it is your choice. It's
right.
not. I'm not gonna impose anything on you. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I know better. Here
That's
is
right.
why. Let me convince you. No. What do you need?
That's right.
I need to understand why did you reach that point that you'd be like,
That's right.
spare me your shit.
That's
I don't
right.
want to vote.
And it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you.
Exactly.
That's
No,
right.
You're not
exactly.
Something wrong
This
with
is
you.
we're
That's
not
right.
leaving
You're
anybody
not-
behind.
That's right.
As
This
a matter
is the
of fact,
attitude.
you're actually rational.
That's right.
It's a
That's
wrap.
it.
Yes.
It's a rational choice.
Yes.
It is.
It was
You know?
Inse Ufot when I was talking about the cynicism of young black voters. She stopped me in the middle of my presentation and said, "Is it cynicism? Because you're describing this young man that said it didn't get any better under Obama, it didn't get any worse under Trump. Is that cynicism or is that just the fact of his life?
Yeah.
Is it
Logic.
realism or cynicism?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, and for
Yep.
many voters, for many people that have withdrawn from the body politic, have decided to never engage the body politic, it is the fact of their life
Right.
that whoever's in that White House don't make their life better or worse.
Yes.
That's not cynicism. That
Yep.
is the fact of their
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
It's a rational
'Cause-
choice.
So people ask me all the time, you know, I got all this data and all these polls and focus groups, and people say, well, what polling do you have on non-voters? What polling do you have on that 50% that
Yeah.
have never been registered? And I say, I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ask HIT, well, why isn't HIT collecting that? I said, that's not how funding is set up.
Right.
Ain't nobody paying for that.
Right.
Ain't nobody making an investment in
Right.
someone that's never voted.
Yes.
I've never done that focus group. Never, because no one's ever commissioned us.
See, that's the thing, man. Like, and the problem is we can't. until we figure out that 50%, not even the whole 50%. This is what I'm trying to say.
Fraction of it.
We need to figure out 5%
That's right.
of 50%. Why
Yeah.
aren't you participating? And
I mean-
then see if we can make offerings.
And maybe the
This is
5% will
the-
inspire the
That's
rest.
Do you think this is the piece around like the destructive piece in many ways? Like I'm thinking about this conversation, right? You know, when you did our audience survey, and we talked to Color Line's audience, where the audience is primarily women over 50, split pretty evenly. Black women, white women. Not a lot
surprised
of, surprised me
That
too.
surprised me.
Color lines,
Yeah.
you know,
All the lines.
you know, and we have multiple imagery and whatever, but it's, I mean, but it speaks to this country in general, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
the problem of the 21st century is still the problem of the color line,
that's
right?
right.
But I am always struck by, you know, how do we have these multiple conversations without people tuning out and say that's not my conversation? Like, how do we actually have a conversation where people realize like shared fate? How do we have a conversation where people enter in open and porous and not like I understand already and I just want to be, you know, kind of affirmed in my understanding. Like, how do we have, I mean, because that's how you get to the 50%, the other, because the reality too is part of the beauty of color lines is that the people that will actually talk to the 50% are their mamas, their sisters,
That's
their
right.
grandmothers,
That's
their
right.
aunties, you know, and so, you know, it's
Yes.
it's like it's a part of the analysis too,
Yeah.
right? Who gets to the 50%? Who do they trust?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I'll walk up in a room, ain't nobody gonna trust me.
That's right.
You know, they won't. They
Some
won't.
people would.
Most people won't.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's what we gotta figure
But
out,
that's what
you
you
know?
have. That's what we have to
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah.
It's like so much of our work positions us as Black people, positions men against women, positions people that went to college against those that didn't go to college, positions those who live in certain communities against others that go there. Da 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 da. Like, how do we get to the point in which we are like, okay, but we're all in this thing. And it's jacked up for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how you balancing that tightrope. You know, because some people are balancing it because they got better shoes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Some got better shoes.
some got
Yeah.
better shoes,
Yeah.
right?
Some have better training
Some
on the
had
tightrope.
better training
Some
on the
just talk
tightrope.
better, you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
you know, all of that. Like,
It's-
how do we get to that point? And that's what scares me. You know,
I think that
don't
shared
know.
fate part, that shared fate is so important. You know, that like, and there's so many ways to convey shared fate. I think of the time Barack Obama went at that podium and said, if I had a son, he would look like
Yes.
Trayvon.
Yeah.
That's a shared fate
That's a
moment.
shared fate moment.
Yeah.
Where every Black person that, you
They
know,
knew
every
what it was.
parent, they all
knew.
knew exactly
They
what
knew.
that felt like,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And there are ways for us to keep reminding people that no matter what shoes you got on, no matter how well you are at that rope, it's the same rope.
Same rope.
Yeah.
And we all on it together.
Yeah. You know what? I want y'all to look at that camera and tell people that are listening. No, I'm being so serious, right?
Yeah.
Because what's the point of having this conversation and landing here and not putting the challenge
That's
out
right.
to everybody that's listening? Who are you talking to?
That's right. Make that
What
investment.
has happened here for you?
Yep.
And how will you make that investment in someone else?
That's real.
Exactly right.
That's
that is
a
very
real
real.
question,
That is real.
you know?
You think people are like? I mean, how many? Who's watching? I know this will get edited because I know.
Who watching us? What you
Yeah,
say?
right. Who in there right now? What you
We
look-
can see you. We see you back.
Right
Oh, you
there.
right there. I
Go
see you.
ahead. No, it is a real challenge though. It's a real challenge, like for us to start engaging these folks who don't see the connection between this and them voting, right? And if we ever really want, and I'm talking about landslide victories
That's right.
for a generation.
That's right.
Somebody needs to invest in this part of the work. Like
Right.
somebody who's listening to this, you need to invest in this You need to support it, and we need to not forget that the Koch brothers invested in their strategy for 60 years.
That's right.
And now we don't have
It's
abortion.
a long game.
Yeah.
That's right. And what he's talking about, what DaMareo's talking about, is true in every single battleground in America. But it's also true, activating that other 50% that don't vote, it's also true in the states that we get to turn into battlegrounds, like Louisiana, Mississippi,
Mississippi.
Alabama. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount
Where
of
people don't have water.
non-participation.
People don't have water.
Come on.
We
Yeah.
could, it
Yeah.
changes the whole map.
And,
It would
changes.
change the
no,
map.
and I-
Not only does it change the map, it changes society.
Yeah.
yes.
That's
And
the,
the world,
that's
'cause
the
if we-
world. If we
and
can
the
change
world.
this
If we could change a
society,
particular society.
we have changed the world.
Man, it's like what
Exactly.
Alvin said. Like, I keep repeating this everywhere. Alvin
Yeah.
said this, and I always
Give
credit.
Alvin his due.
I
Alvin
have to.
Herring.
Alvin Herring said, we were in a meeting, and he was like, it is time for regular people to rise up and reclaim life on Earth. When he said that, I was-
Together.
together.
You can't miss that
The
part.
first part is
Regular
the first part of the question is, he's like, I keep asking myself, are we planning to have a future together? Like, and that's a real question.
Yep.
Right
That
now.
is.
Because
That's a
like
real
honestly,
question.
the planet is dying or shifting, right? And like if we're going to have a future together, that means that we need to get very clear about the strategies to build power for regular people here. Because if we can create a social revolution that is about affirming and creating systems that conspire for life to flourish and thrive
Together.
Yep.
together,
That's right.
right? If we could do that here, then we could save the planet. We literally could save
That's
the planet.
right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Like
We
it's
can.
that. It's really that. It's really
Because
that
the
serious.
whole
Yeah.
world listens to
That's
the
it.
United
Absolutely.
States.
That's it.
That's right.
And I keep adding together because I think that's one of the most important words in that
exactly
statement.
right. That's
Together.
You know, because
That's right.
part of the problem we have is people are trying to do that for themselves,
That's
Individual. You're right.
for their individual self.
That's right.
So that if we could do that together, that by its very nature
That's
changes
right.
society. Nafisa, as an immigrant engaged in this, when you started talking about how you're in this country, but sometimes, you know, really having to like look around and understand and maybe even fear, but jumping in anyway, you know, making sure that you don't begin to start fearing people. But recognizing that, you know, like once you start fearing people, then that's the beginning of the end of the community we can build. And so that was so powerful for me. And so if you could talk a little bit about that, I would really appreciate that.
I lived in fear for so many years. I was born with fear. I was in exile since I was born. My family was on exile. We lived in fear. My father was assassinated by a fascist government. So my whole life was like this. But I was nobody. No one listened to my feelings, to my thoughts, because I was afraid to speak, to do anything by myself. Everything was done for me. And I'm just like accepting whatever is given to me. And that messed me up so much. But when I came to this country, that's when I started to, like, I need to end this now when I'm in my own. That's what you want, right? You want your independence, you want to think for yourself. You're on your own now, and you don't know anything. You don't know what independence is because, exactly. Or democracy. I've never voted in my life until now. I still have never. So, and I understood, that's how I came to the conclusion, like voting and all that doesn't make any sense as long as you are afraid to speak up your truth and say things as they are, as opposed to, no, I need to be nice to this, but things that you should say, or it's nice to say, but they're not gonna change anything. If not, they just gonna make things even expand more, the issue get bigger more. So when you say things as they are, in a respectful way, you're not hurting anyone, and even if you are against the world, I'm still gonna do it. I know that this is the way. If you say the truth, if you stand by your truth and say things as they are, no matter the consequences, I know that this is how change is gonna happen. Because I thought that Gaddafi would outlive Libya and Libyans and all that, but when he was ousted and they told me he's dead, I was just like, no. This is, what? No. Like, how am I supposed to react to this? Because I've never even imagined that with the fear overwhelming me. That's when I understood that the real power is not in governments, is not in voting, is people united. People hit the street because it's like, we're already dead. We have nothing to lose.
Wow.
I'm gonna go. Either I change or I die. Try it. But I'm gonna live by my truth. And that's when I was like, I'm never gonna be afraid of anything, because everything is possible if you live by your truth, you keep living by it. Those people who pretend that, oh, how dare you? They love the fact that you are so truthful. It's just they hate you because they're not that brave enough to do it themselves.
Great. That is great.
But that's why I believe that your strength, your truth, stay truthful and stay strong, and don't wait for someone to come and save you.
That's it.
That's when you, like, it's in people's power together.
And sometimes that power turns punitive.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it'll drag your ass about there.
No job.
Come on down here.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
the
Come on
minute
down
when
here
I
for the
was
people.
like,
We're
when
gonna
I
teach you
saw how
something.
people hitting the street and dying, and like there's a tank in front of your face, and you're just, like, you're not trained, you're not a
Right.
soldier,
Right.
and you're just like,
Forget it.
I have nothing
forget
left
it.
to lose.
I have
That's it.
nothing yet left. They have like families. They have like 5 kids, but there's like, I'm useless to them anyway. So
Right.
I'm gonna try
That
to
is
make their lives better by facing fascism.
Yeah.
If I can fight it,
Wow.
then I save them. If
That's
not,
right.
at least
We
someday
perish
they will be
together.
proud of
Yeah.
me that I
That's
tried
right.
to
At
do
least
that for
they'll
them.
Be proud of me someday.
That's it.
That's
That's
Ooh.
that's deep.
That just gave me chills.
It
Yeah.
gave me chills too, and it made me
Gave me
realize
chills.
too
Talk about the other 50%.
that's
Wait
what
till
the
they start
other
talking like that.
50%.
Until they start dragging
That's
folks out of
it.
them.
You talk to the other 50%,
But
not,
they
not,
think that they're doing it.
Seriously.
not during
Yeah.
election time.
But they think they're doing it. If you think about it, that other 50%,
That's what
there's
they
a
think they're
piece
doing
of
by
it.
not
They think that
participating.
that I'm going to die anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
so,
thought.
but the question is, how do you have them die for a truth worth living for?
exactly.
That's the difference.
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
Not live for your ego or self-esteem or look at me how I look. No, it's just like, this is my truth. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna treat you the way I treat trans, white, brown, green, yellow. I'm just gonna hit you with whatever. As long as it's the truth, and as long as I'm not like saying that just to hurt you or to serve my ego. No.
Right.
And
It's fascinating.
yeah.
All right. What do you write? And every time you start writing, something's happening. What's happening
Oh, I'm
for
not.
you?
No. I'm writing what y'all saying, man. I'm just listening. So like everything is possible if we live by our own truth, Nafisa. And then,
How do we get people to be ready to die for a truth that's worth living for?
Well, they're doing it. Let me be very clear. The right is doing it. They
Sure
are
they
ready
are.
to die for this.
For their thing.
That's right.
And I'm thinking about like
They are.
Nationalism they believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Our
the
truth.
Christian nationalism they believe
what
in.
they
That's the
did,
thing.
what they
Yeah.
did for Trump,
That's right.
that
That's
is
it.
that is true
I mean, but
dedication.
they think
it.
that their lives are on the line. Like
Yeah.
they really believe
That's right.
that their lives, their way of life, but also their children's lives,
That's
right?
right.
Like they're motivated by it. They're like, this country will not be a place.
Welcoming.
What I think this is like they're saying, my kids and grandkids are gonna pay for the actions of me and my grandparents and my great grandparents, and they're terrified about it because they think that brown people and black people act the way that they do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's
but
the
we
apartheid
don't.
thing,
We
you know,
never
it's-
have.
Yeah,
the,
it's,
right.
it's the whole apartheid.
Exactly,
Thing.
it's
If
the
we
apartheid
give these
thing.
black South Africans the power, then they're going to use it against us. The way we use it against
There's
them.
them, and that's
Yeah.
just not the case. I think if I had the one thing to say, I would say like across the country, ballot initiatives turn black voters and young voters and people who are dealing with real life out to the polls.
It's
If you look at Florida's housing issues, right?
Yeah.
Detroit Action had a democracy issue on the ballot.
Yep.
Baltimore, had a police reform. Akron, where I'm from, had a police reform.
Yeah.
These are boosting the turnout and exposing an electorate that is hardly ever talked to. And so I think, like, you know, the thing I want to leave with is, like, all of those things came out of organizing. We have to invest in base building and growing voters, not just mobilizing them. And, like, that means, like, a year-round organizing campaign plan.
The journey.
That is, like, using campaign, like, election seasons are opportunities for base building and us to, like, express our power. They're not the reasons for us to build power.
That's so good.
You know, and I really believe, like, we have to start understanding that humans, one individual, me, myself, or any one individual cannot be chopped into pieces to be individually funded issues. It's not logical.
That's
Right? Like we have to use issues to help bring people into a relationship with power building entities, right? And one person who cares about housing might have lost their job because of racial discrimination, or because they had a previous criminal background or history, because they went to a school that was underfunded, right? Like it's more than one issue. And I just want us to really be, like, intentional. Like, moving forward, we need to be intentional about growing voters. Like, meaning taking the time to water the plant, to plant the seed, to water the seed, to nurture, to prune, right? To, like, prepare it to be a continuous fruitful
right.
for our communities, right? Like, we
That's
gotta
right.
do that.
Don't just come for the fruit at election time.
Yeah.
Don't just show up for the fruit.
Don't just show up for fruit.
Yeah.
Ain't
Yeah.
doing none of the work.
You ain't gonna show up for nothing but thorns and thistles
That's
if
right.
you don't do
Yes.
thorns and thistles.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, yay. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you for
I
bringing
mean,
us
Thank you.
together.
This was amazing.
It
I
was,
loved
yeah.
this conversation. Yeah.
Oh, no
Come
one
on-
had a
come on back.
conversation with me like this.
Come on back. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.